What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport. Today I want to test out something. So my wife's car needed new brakes, and she has a 2010 BMW 550i GT right behind me, and her brakes have just really reached that point where they have to be changed. And I didn't want to just throw pads on there because I think her rotors are probably starting to get bad too. So I said, you know what, let me look online, figure out what a full replacement is. And they could be really expensive for the stock replacement. So I jumped on eBay. This is her car right here, obviously. And I jumped on eBay and I found this set for 229 bucks. And it comes from, I think it's Brake Motive. And I'll leave a link to this. So these are the front right here. And in this set wasn't just the brakes, wasn't just the rotors, it was a complete set. So sensors, hardware, and everything, and ceramic brake pads, and shockingly drilled and slotted rotors, which don't even come stock on this car. So pretty excited to see for $229, and I'm talking front, rear, brake pads, the whole thing. That was the total cost. I'm excited to see what type of performance. Is it going to be better, worse than stock? I'm guessing it has to be better because we've only owned the car now since about 45,000 miles, and she has 70,000 right now. So they were kind of towards the end of their life anyways, and she doesn't drive real hard. So I think it's going to make a massive difference for her. We're going to do just the front right now. That's probably your biggest stopping part, is going to be about 80% in the front. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to give you guys an update, and then I'm going to go ahead and change out the rears, and I'll probably do another update on that. We'll also do a brake flush because I've never done that on this car, and I just want to get rid of the old fluid and put some new fluid in there. I probably will skip through that, but what I do want to do is fill you in on anything I run into. It's probably going to be similar to most other brake jobs, but I will show you what tools you need, what you need to take off. I'm going to go ahead and do this side first, and then I'll show you on the other side. So stay tuned. Let me open up the box and get everything set up. All right, before we go ahead and jump on the driver's side, let me show you guys what tools I use in order to remove everything on the passenger side and put it back in. I've got to be honest, it went extremely smooth, which was awesome. It took about 45 minutes, and that was taking my time and jumping on some forums. So this can be an easy one-day job or a couple-hour job if that's what you need it to be. Make sure you've got set up properly. You've got all the tools you need. You're going to need a large C-clamp to compress the brake cylinder, much larger than most brake jobs because these rotors are massive. So make sure you get a pretty big C-clamp. Flathead screwdriver, you're going to use it to pry off some things. A 9mm hex head, you can use the standard style like this. The bolts were pretty easy to break loose, but I didn't have a 9mm in this, so I went down and picked this up. It worked really, really well. I love these cordless impacts. It works really, really well getting into the places that you need to get into on this job. So if you could pick one up, pick one up. You need to get an 18mm socket wrench with a breaker bar, and that's going to be to take off the other caliper bolts. And then this is a 6mm hex head, and make sure you've got some PB blaster or something because this is going to be to take off the screw which holds in the rotor. But mine was very easy to take off. I've heard up north when you get rust, it can be very, very difficult. So that's going to be the part that you might need to take your time on and really, really PB blast it before getting started. I like to use the Loctite on the bolts putting back onto the caliper, and I didn't see any on there when I took the bolts out, but I like to use it on the bolts because it just for extra safety. And then brake clean to clean down the rotors before putting them on, and then I like to spray them down once I'm done if I get fingerprints on them, etc. Outside that, that's kind of the basic tools, maybe some cleanup rags and some gloves, and let's jump over to the car and get started. All right, so to go ahead and get started, make sure you jack the car up from the jacking point, slide some jack stands in there for extra safety, and then obviously you got to remove your tire. Now take a look at these brake calipers, how massive they are, and how awesome it is for BMW to put a true cooling vent in there. So that goes right into the front bumper and does actually cool these brakes off. So really cool on their part for making this more of a performance style vehicle. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So to get started, you want to go ahead and slide up underneath here, turn your wheel the best you can, and you're going to see two little caps right here on your brake calipers. All right, those little caps come off. Now, in that kit, there was replacement ones, and behind there is going to be a 9mm. It's like a deep well nut or bolt, and in there's going to be a 9mm hex head. So we're going to use that 9mm hex head to go ahead and take those off. Now, you could remove it right here and remove the entire caliper, but I want to take the brake pads out first and then take this part off here, and that will give us access to our rotor. So let's go ahead and pop these off and go ahead and unscrew these. All right, so next what we're going to do is pop off this little cover, and there's a little clip right here you just want to press. It's going to go flying maybe, so make sure you hold on to that so it doesn't hit anything. That comes off, and that's going to allow us to remove our brake pads here. They're going to be a little tight. You can compress them a little bit using a screwdriver, but I was able to get the other side off just by wiggling. And there we go. Brake pads might fall out. And pull this out here. And our sensor goes right to that brake pad there. And we're going to go ahead and put this, pull our sensor out real quick. There. I'm going to stick this back on there now. This is pretty light, so usually you have to be very, very cautious with these because they're heavy and they can really damage the brake lines. But I could just stick it right up there. Now we're going to grab our 18mm bolts and we'll be able to pull this off, and then we can change out our rotor here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and PB blast our little Allen key screw here. Going to get our 6mm hex on there. Now, this is just going to spin, so what I'm going to do is lock this in. There we go. Let's put a screwdriver in there. That'll hold it. And then I'm going to use a little breaker bar. There we go. She's loose. I'm sure some of you up north are probably pissed off that you saw how easily that came off. One of the benefits of having a car that's been in Florida its whole life is there's almost no rust, but there's a lot of sun damage, so that's kind of the trade-off. Now, you might have to kick this a little to break it loose. Go ahead and zip tie our caliper piece up here out of the way. All right, now we got that tied up out of the way, we can go ahead and try to kick this loose. Oh, be careful. It'll break loose. And that is off. Now we can go ahead and put our new rotor on and put our screw back in. All right, so we got to go ahead and change our sensor out on the driver's side. Now, there's not a sensor you need to change on the passenger side because it uses these pads to kind of tell you when your fronts are low or your rears are low. So you're going to have a sensor in the front and a sensor in the rear that connects to the actual pads. And then it looks like this one's going to be the sensor for the front. There's one with a green cable. And just looking at this one looks like it's the one that goes on the front. So what I'm going to do is kind of just follow this, pull it out. It's up here in this box right here where it unplugs. And I'm going to reroute the new one into exactly how it is. I'll fill you in if anything strange needs to be done. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll get our pads back in and get everything set up. All right, so the brake sensor slid in real easily. You just got to pull the old one out and kind of follow it as you go and pop the new one into all the same clips. It is the one without the green wire up front, so obviously our green wire one's going to go in the rear, and this is on the driver's side. Next thing I did was C-clamped my brake caliper here, and I used the old brake pad inside there so I don't damage anything. But before you do that, you want to make sure you crack open your brake reservoir so that the air can bleed back into there. And that is why we're going to have to bleed our system in case we get air in the lines. You don't want to have a dangerous situation where you can't stop. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put my bracket back on. We're going to lube up the back of our brake pads, our ceramic brake pads here with that ceramic brake lube. And then we're going to slide our brake caliper all back together and pop everything in place. I'll show you guys that kind of in fast motion. Well, guys, that about sums it up. Now I just need to go ahead and bleed these front brakes and I can start driving. I'm going to fill you guys in before the end of the video how well I feel like these brakes are compared to the stock ones, especially with the price difference. So let me go ahead and get everything put back on there, and I'll fill you guys in on what I think about these brakes. Alright guys, so it's been about 4 or 5 days since I installed these front brakes, and I have not done the back yet, but I've got to say I am completely impressed with not only the price and the quality of these brakes, but just how well they stop. So big upgrade from what we had before, and these are pretty cool too. They're drilled and slotted like you guys saw. Massive brakes, but the ceramic pads they included seem very high quality, and not only am I impressed, but my wife is very happy. So that's the main thing, right? And I'm going to go ahead and install these back brakes. Feel free to drop a comment if you have any questions about the rear, since I did not include that in this video, but it should be pretty straightforward, easier than the front actually. And so you're going to have your sensor probably on the driver's side, just like we had the one sensor on the front driver's side. So like I said, if you have any questions at all, please drop a comment below. You guys have an awesome day, a blessed week, and I'm going to catch you on the next video.